On this episode of Locked On Angels, it's Fanmail Friday, and you shared with us what your closed-door meeting would be like with these Halo players, and we're going to share all of them today. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all this Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. We would love a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. We'd also love you to give a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed on YouTube, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube. Leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with John and I and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use our promo code LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100.
Happy Friday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Mike, I'm feeling good on a Friday for the first time in a week, I guess, considering It was a 7-game losing streak, but it is our third season here at Locked On Angels. We're talking Angels baseball with you every Monday through Friday. On today's show, we're going to recap that game against the Tigers. Some amazing achievements took place during that game, and we're going to get to some of your questions for Fanmail Friday. I know we did Talk to Me Tuesday, but we had even more questions to answer, so we're looking forward to that. Mike, let's get into this Angels-Tigers game as they snap their losing streak. Let's go.
Johnny, Caden Dana, that was announced. Going to start on...
I've heard of him.
Going to start on Sunday against the Mariners. That's good news. And then we found out that Samuel Altuve is going to be starting today.
Yeah.
And so that's really good news. Altuve doesn't have a really hard fastball, but he's got good stuff, and he gets a lot of weak contact. And they also said that about Caden Dana as well. So really looking forward to both of those starts. And John and I are going to recap both starts on Monday on Locked On Angels.
Yeah, looking forward to these guys just getting a look at the end of the season. Again, I don't think it hurts their development any. I think that they've been patient with Caden Dana, let him pitch, all through AA this season. I think that's a great thing. Out of desperation, they would have called him up much, much sooner. And I'm glad that they weren't so desperate this season. Let him pitch the whole year in AA and see what you have.
Yeah.
And it's the end of the season. It's that time of year. It's time to do that sort of thing, right?
Yeah. Let's talk about that game yesterday. So Taylor Ward started the game off with a single and a stolen base. Coming into yesterday's game, Johnny, 12 games at the top of the order. Here's his slash line: 271 batting average, 294 on base, 458 slugging, and a 752 OPS. Obviously, you would want to see a higher on base percentage, but Taylor Ward has improved, moving to the top of that lineup, and has a season high 9-game hitting streak. And so I really like Ward at the top. I think that it's probably better to have maybe a Kochanowicz at second, third in the order. And obviously Neto's great at second. So maybe Kochanowicz second after Neto. And so being third in the lineup. And so I really like Ward at the top, and his numbers have improved again. I think that on base percentage should be a bit higher for a leadoff hitter. However, he's done well.
Yeah, he's showing patience up there, taking good at bats, and that's what I saw from him yesterday. He got thrown out at third trying to advance on Kochanowicz' ground out, so that was just not smart base running there, but he is performing well at the top of the order. Jack Kochaniowicz started this one, Mike, doing what he's been doing. He got a ground out to second, a strikeout, and a ground out to first, a 9-pitch inning in the first.
Love it.
Top of the second, these guys were taking their hacks on the first pitch, and I wrote, "Come on, guys!" Popped out from Matt Price on the first pitch. Moniak had a good at bat. He got a single, and Joe Adell grounded into a double play. Bottom of the second, more of the same. A fly out from Kochanowicz, a line out to Rendon, and a strikeout to Spencer Torkelson. 19 pitches so far through this game. Finally, in the third inning, I should say, Nico Cavadas had a fly out. Stefanik had a competitive at bat that led to a walk. Another good at bat for Ward, which was another walk. And then Neto took a first pitch ground out on a fielder's choice. Stefanik got over to third, and then a fly out from Nolan Kochanowicz. Then there was some trouble for Kochanowicz. He gets out of a jam, right, Mike, in the bottom of the third?
Yeah, there was a leadoff double and then a hit by a pitch. It was on the foot, and then it was just an overthrown curveball. Then a double play. ground ball double play. Runner moved to third base. And then Kochanowicz versus Meadows, it was 3-2, and he struck out looking. It was his third K of the game so far. And Johnny, he got out of that jam, and he looked like a professional pitcher on the mound. Really, really loved watching him play and pitch yesterday.
Yeah, pitching efficiently, staying calm up there. It's been great to watch Kochanowicz come back and turn it around since he's come back to the majors. Top 4, Moniak drives in Rendon because Rendon walked, and then Moniak doubled, and Rendon scored. Moniak goes to third, is initially called safe, but then he got called out coming off the bag. And Adele did that on Wednesday night into second. And then Moniak yesterday. Do we need some sliding lessons? These guys, these speedsters running around the bases, I don't know if they're going too fast or too late. I'm not sure what that is, but at the end of the day, these guys need to hold on to those bags because it's great if you can take the extra base, but not worth it if you pop up and get called out. So that made it 1-0 Angels at that point. Bottom of the fourth, more of the same for Kochanowicz. Ground out to Neto, a fly out to Moniak. There was a automatic double from Jace Young, who is the younger brother of Josh Young on the Rangers. Ground ball to Stefanik, 47 pitches through 4 innings so far.
Yeah.
With Jack Kochaniowicz.
So far, so good. Top 5, there was a single for Kavadas. It's the third time in 5 innings that the Angels have had the leadoff guy on. Got to take advantage of that. There was a strikeout to Stefanik. Wasn't a strike if you went back and looked at it. And then Taylor Ward was up. First pitch to Ward was up and in, and he gave Montero that look of death. Like, dude, stop throwing that up there. And obviously he's sick to death of this, right? You can tell he's just irritated that they keep trying to throw up there. And dude has every reason to be pretty frustrated.
Yeah, I don't blame him one bit for being frustrated. It wasn't the first up and in either of the game. And so for Ward to give him that glare, I was like, there you go, buddy. Stand up
that, Ward. I love that attitude. I want to see more of that. So he flew out eventually in that at bat. Then Johnny Zach Neto hits his 20th home run yesterday. It was a 2-run home run. Joins Mike Trout as the only Angel to have a 2020 season at age 23 or younger, made it 3-0 Angels. And then, Johnny, it tied some guy named Jim Fregosi, some Hall of Famer, right? He tied him for home runs as an Angel shortstop. Fregosi's homer came also, 2 of his home runs that season came as a first baseman in 1970. And so he's the first Angel infielder, Zach Neto, to have 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases. Pretty great season for our boy Zach.
Absolutely, and a great baseline for him moving forward. I know that technically he tied Fregosi for home runs as a shortstop, but I want to see him get 23. I know that Fregosi had 2 home runs as a first baseman, so that's the 2020 or the 22 total home runs in 1970. I want to see Neto get 3 more because I want to see him set the record here. At bottom of the 5th, Mike, there was a strikeout to Spencer Torkelson. Base hit to second. It was 105 off the bat, and it was a tough play for Stefanik. He was not able to get it. A ground ball back to Kochanowicz, throws the runner out at first base. The runner did move to second, and Gooby noted that there was no panic from Jack Kochaniowicz.
Yeah.
And then a chopper to short for the out. So 61 pitches through 5 scoreless innings. Not much to speak of in the Angels' top of the 6th, but the bottom of the 6th, there was some trouble for Kochanowicz. There was a base hit to left. The sinker was up. There was a base hit to center, another sinker kind of up in the zone. A deep fly out from Riley Green to Moniak, put runners on first and third. Then he gets a double play to get out of the jam. His 4th straight quality start. This is where his day ended. 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, no walks, no walks, and no walks. 4 strikeouts and no earned runs on 73 pitches. And you know, in any normal circumstance, I think you could look and go 73. He could go back out there for the 7th.
Sure.
But I think you could see giving up those sinkers that he gave up for the 2 leadoff base hits. I think that was kind of an indication of, all right, maybe it's time to pull him. And I also think that Ron Washington wanted the win. So he took out his starter and went to the bullpen in that instance.
Yeah, Angels don't do much in the top of the 7th. And then again, there's nothing much in the bottom of the 7th for the Tigers. The Angels had another 1-2-3 easy inning outside of a Nolan Shonawell base hit in the top of the 8th. And then in the bottom, there was some trouble for Joyce as he was facing Spencer Torkelson. So first Quijada comes in, gets a strikeout, walk, strikeout. He's kind of like there's only two results for Quijada, right?
Yeah.
It's a strikeout or it's a walk,
No
right?
kidding.
He's like Kyle Schwarber, but a pitcher. There's
Yeah.
only just a couple of certain things that you could expect from him. Then there was a base hit, so there's runners at the corners, and then Quijada walks Colton Keith to load the bases, couldn't get the fastball down, right? And so Joyce comes in, and I love this move just because Ben Joyce seems to be the guy that wants to be in there for this. I love that as a young guy, he's fired up to come in. He's facing Spencer Torkelson, going to get a 4-out save, and he has to start by getting this guy out. John strikes him out. It was a splinker right under his hands.
Yeah, he threw that pitch a couple of times and got him to swing over it for the final K or for the final strike. And here's the thing, it was a matchup of epic proportions because since Torkelson's been back up in the majors, he's been really hot. And of course, he's somebody the Tigers are really counting on to be a good player for them. And so to have this face-off was honestly really epic, and it was awesome to see Joyce get that. And he ended up finishing the game. He gave up a base hit initially in the 9th, a strikeout, a pop-up, a ground out to second. That finished out the day. Ben Joyce coming in, big Ben Joyce, throwing the heat, throwing the fire, getting the save. Zach Neto making all kinds of history with the 2020 season, and add another 20 on there if you want to talk doubles as well. So just really awesome game for the Angels to snap that dang losing streak and come away with a win. Just an awful road trip. So a 3-0 final score. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels are playing the Mariners at 6:38 Pacific time. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels. Coming up on Locked On Angels, you shared some of your closed-door meeting speeches with us, and we'll share them with the rest of our everydayers coming right up.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Liquid IV. I've talked about Liquid IV a couple of times on this show. You can get hydrated and stay hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Johnny, 1 stick of Liquid IV and 16 ounces of water hydrates you better than water alone, and it provides 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. I've talked often about how my youngest daughter plays basketball and she loves Liquid IV. See, it was sent to me, but she's taking it from me. But I guess I'm going to be a servant dad and let her do that. It has 8 vitamins and nutrients all in a single stick. And the best part, and I'm promising you, hand to the sky, it actually tastes really, really good. I love cherry and I love the Rocket Pop, but they have so many flavors on their website. Always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free. And right now, you can get 20% off your first order when you go to liquidiv.com. Use our promo code MLB at checkout. Again, liquidiv.com. Enter our promo code MLB. I'm sorry, liquidiv.com. Enter our promo code MLB, and you'll get 20% off your very first order. Tear poor, live more, Liquid IV.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And everydayers, just want to remind you that you're invited to the Angels All-Star Bowl. It's an event being put on by Logan O'Hoppe, and he's inviting some of his teammates along as well. And the goal is to raise funds for Corey's Promise, a nonprofit organization that helps to offset the financial burden for families whose children are battling pediatric cancer. It's a great opportunity to meet some players, come hang out with us, the Super Halo Bros, and of course, raise money for a good cause. So come hang with us Saturday, October 5th at Cal Bowl in Lakewood from 1 to 4 p.m. And when you buy your tickets, you can get those in the episode description. There's a link down there for you. When you go to buy your ticket, use our promo code BROS at checkout, BROS, and you can get $50 off your ticket. We're so honored to be part of this event. We want you guys to be there. We're so excited to hang with the players, and we're excited to hang with you too. I love running into people at the stadium, and I can't wait to see some people at Cal Bowl October 5th from 1 to 4 p.m.
It's a Fanmail Friday, and some of the things that you sent us were really great, especially what you would say are everydayers in a closed-door meeting with the Angels, and we shared our thoughts yesterday. You get to share your thoughts today. Johnny, Sydney Scott, author on YouTube, which, by the way, Sydney, are you really an author? Because
she is.
Okay, great. I'd love to see what you write. Send us some of the stuff that you've written. I'd love to see what kind of author you are. I'm actually
she follows us on Instagram, so you can, from Super Halo Bros, give her a little follow and check what she's writing. But she's become one of my favorite everydayers this season, Mike. I love it.
Heck yeah. So here's what she said about that closed door meeting. Manager Sydney Scott Author of the Los Angeles Angels said, as a millennial mom who majored in communication studies, I'm all about that gentle parenting. So my meeting would probably look a little different. It would be a lot of sharing feelings and not just every now and then, but regularly. Ward is a new dad. How has that affected his outlook on playing for the rest of the season? Pilar is thinking of retiring. So what does that mean for him on the field? The younger guys are playing their hearts out, but they aren't used to the grind and the wear of the season that they have. And then what support could the older guys give them? A team can operate like a group of coworkers, or they can operate like a family. And I think that there needs to be a little bit more of the latter for the Angels. Educate, encourage, and support one another while trying to have some fun and getting a win or two while you're out there.
Don't forget about that part. Yeah, I thought that this was a really interesting comment because I think there's some elements of it that don't necessarily need to be a closed door meeting. I mean, honestly, if the conversation isn't happening with Taylor Ward, hey, how you feeling about being a new dad? Hey, how you feeling about, taking those pitches up and in? I know they're making you angry. I know it's frustrating. And then you think about like Pilar thinking of retiring, maybe wanting to stick around. Those to me sound like some good one-on-one conversations. Yeah. But what I loved here was the young guys are playing their hearts out. They aren't used to the grind and wear and tear a full season can have. Yep. And I think that's something that gets lost on us sometimes. This is a first full season for Neto, Kochanowicz, O'Hoppe, and really Moniak and Adele. Like those guys are all doing this for the first time, and it's a long season and a long grind. So I really love that the older guys should help the younger guys just know what to expect in a long season and how to endure the grind. Hey, how do you get through 162 games with constantly being on the plane and traveling and doing all this? So I think there's some great elements there of, having a team meeting, but also having these one-on-one conversations. And I would be confident in saying that I'm sure Wash is the kind of manager who would be having these conversations. What stood out to you, Mike?
I really like two things. One, I liked the idea of I wouldn't do this every now and then. I would do it regularly. And I think that that's the sentiment that I expressed yesterday, the sentiment you expressed, and a lot of our everydayers were like, no, this is something that you have to do every single day, or at least every other day, right? Regularly, because these are humans that are playing this game and it's a grind and they're away from their family. And you do become a family when you're in this grind with your team. She does bring up a good point because she's a millennial mom who majored in communication skills and then talked about like, hey, what about you being a new dad, Taylor Ward? Or what about thinking about retiring? Or are you guys exhausted? And you and I talked about in the off season before we started that somebody like a Patrick Sandoval needed to sit down with a therapist or a psychologist, right? Yes. That would kind of process some of the things that were going on in his mind. And I wonder if, I don't know if the team does have like a sports psychologist on staff, but one of the things that I was really feeling after our show yesterday and then reading some of what the everydayers were saying is we're expecting Ron Washington and the rest of this coaching staff to do a lot of things, right? They have to be dad, but they also have to be manager and they have to be pitching coach. It's similar to what we do in schools with teachers, right? Teachers don't just educate anymore. They have to have experience in therapy. They have to have experience in mental health, right? Because they're dealing with humans and there's a lot that's on their plate. And a lot of teachers are really good at that, but we're asking them to do a lot of things. And I wonder if it's similar with this Angel coaching staff and this organization. We need you to coach and we need you to manage and we need you to come up with a strategy and train and all those things. And by the way, could you help manage the mental health of these guys? And could you help manage the spiritual health of these guys and the emotional health of you know what I mean? And so that's what I loved about what Sydney said here is that there's elements to this that perhaps the Angels need to bring in some extra help so that Wash can go, you need to talk to somebody, there's a person to talk to. Yeah. But we're gonna make sure that you're getting that ground ball and we're gonna make sure you're not sliding over the bag, right? That way he can focus on his role.
I hope this leads to more conversations like that and more support staff on the team, because we know a lot of teams have this kind of stuff and it's unclear if the Angels have those resources available to them. But lots of great points made there by Sydney Scott. How about Norman O'Brien, who is also an awesome everydayer on YouTube? He said, leave it all on the field. If the guys play as hard as they can when they lose, I accept that. But when the mental errors cause losses, it drives me crazy. Also, I'm hoping to see some call-ups when September expansion happens. Hey, good news this weekend. We have less than 30 games left to get big league experience to build on to carry over to next season. I love the young nucleus to build on for the future. So let's finish the season feeling good about this team and the future. Mike, you know what's funny to me is they announced both. Well, no, during the game, they announced Caden Dana. The news about Aldegari came a little bit later after the game. But man, what a way to the Angels were up. They were winning, and it looked like, they were going to win this game yesterday. But it put me in such a good mood to know that, oh, Caden Dana's coming up. Something to watch on Sunday. Or Aldegari all of a sudden. Hey, look at that. On Friday night, he's going to pitch against the Marawiners. And I'm excited about that. And so, to me, I like what Norman said is I want to see them build on this nucleus. I want to feel good about the rest of the season and the future. And I think that's exactly what's happening here. And I also like just comment about, leave it all on the field. If you play competitively and you lose, that's the nature of the game. The other team was better than you that day, but it seems like a lot of issues in this 7-game losing streak that they had. Yesterday was a super clean game. I can't recall any glaring issues other than Moniak, popping off the bag when he was trying to slide in there. But he also did drive in an RBI while he did it. So I guess that's a check in his corner. So yeah, I am with Norman here in terms of the mental errors drive me nuts. And it seemed like that's what's been getting to these guys the last few days. But to see them pick up a win and make some call-ups, that's exciting, and I'm looking forward to this weekend. Are you?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see those young pitchers pitch, but I also would say I agree with Norman. And when you talk about sliding past the bag or popping up, those types of things, to me, they need to fix that. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But what it shows is that they're hustling. They're running fast. They're sliding in hard, right? And so there's just a matter of actually managing your body in those situations. Those aren't mental errors. I think what Norman is saying is absolutely right. That's them hustling and leaving it on the field, right? When a ball drops in between Pilar and Ward, that's frustrating. Mm-hmm. When Zach Neto dives and slides and makes the catch, that's exciting. When you see them really trying to hustle and not just watching the pitch go down the middle and they aren't swinging the bats, that's frustrating for fans watching these young players. And so I would rather have them make the hustle mistake than the mental mistake. And that's when you're seeing them do what they can do and leave it all out on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would even say, I commented on the fact that they were swinging at pitch 1 to start that game out, but I noted later that no, actually they had some competitive at bats yesterday.
Yeah.
And that was really important. So it was good to see them make that adjustment and not get stuck in that mental slump that they've been in over the last few days.
Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. And unlike other apps, Prize Picks just allows you to play against you and the numbers. And that's all that there is, not against these sharks and other people that are really, really good. It's just you and the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch those winnings roll in. If you sign up today, you get $50 instantly when you play $5. Don't even need to win. They're just going to give you that $50 if you play $5. It's guaranteed. And then starting now, it's September, almost September, you can actually get a bonus when you sign up for Prize Picks. 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every single week. You just need to pick more and you're going to be a winner. Remember, you can do this all throughout September, and then when it's gone, it's gone. So download Prize Picks today. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game.
Mike, we had a few spare questions, I think is what you could say, and these ones came from YouTube. Good Luck Chuck on YouTube was referring to Canning's start from 2 days ago, and he said, I'll take giving up 3 runs all day. And, that game turned out to be a 3-2 loss.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about Canning is as frustrated as we've been with him in terms of going out there and having some consistency, if he gives up 3 runs across 5 or 6 innings, the Angels should be, you're in the game. Yes. You should be able to match that. And the Angels just were not in the game on Wednesday night.
No.
At all. So Good Luck Chuck actually wanted to know where the Angels rank on offense. Let me read these out for you. I did a little fan graphing, if you will.
dive.
Angels coming into yesterday's game, so before the early start against the Tigers, an 89 weighted runs created plus means they're 11% below league average. That's 26th in MLB. A 237 batting average, that's 27th. A 673 on base plus slugging, also 27th. They have an 8% team walk rate that puts them at 15th, so they're right there in the middle. 23.3% team strikeout rate, that's 20th in the league. 108 stolen bases puts them at 11th in MLB. 129 homers, 26 in MLB. 485 RBIs, 27th in MLB. Mike, any surprises there, or does this just make 100% sense?
Well, here's where it's frustrating, and I'm not surprised by it because we've seen it, we've watched it. They haven't been great on offense, and what's frustrating is this: there's always a season where it makes it so obvious. This offseason, the Angels need to get pitching, right? And then they get pitching, or they get a bullpen, and then the next season, it's like, well, now the bats are cold, right? And then you're like, well, this offseason, they got to go and get a couple of bats. So they get the bats, right? And then they come back, and the guys that they got that were really great the year before are not great this year in the bullpen or in the starting rotation. And so this is why I love that Perry is really building from within and getting some young guys. It's why I love that Altaguiri's pitching today and that Dana's going to pitch on Sunday, because you get to run with your guys and they get to try to prove themselves, and they also get to try to develop. And so these guys are not going to, if they have a bit of an up and down, there's some room for grace, right? There's some room for error.
Because they're your guys.
They're your guys, and there's still some room to grow. It's frustrating when you go and you sign two really good relievers like Perry did a couple of years ago, and then they just completely fall apart really a fourth of the way into the season. And so I'm hoping that some of these pitchers turn out for next year, but I'm also hoping that some of the bats, because they've had a full season, like an O'Hoppe and like a Joe Adell, will see their batting average rise a bit, and will also be able to manage their energy. I think that has something to do with Logan O'Hoppe's slump. It's just, he's probably tired, physically tired, maybe mentally tired. And so being able to manage that, I think, will help raise some of these stats, because I don't think that they're going to do too much in the free agent market in the offseason, like go and spend a bunch of money. And maybe they shouldn't, John, because if they want to build from within and they want to be competitive in a couple of years, I think that they have a good core of young players.
Yeah, they're going to need that money to extend a lot of these young players that they want to keep around once those arbitration years are over. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Glenn Thomas on YouTube said, rate the Angels starting pitching. Are they 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 5+? Do the Angels have a 1 or a 2? And what kind of starting pitching is needed by a championship team? Why don't you take this one, Johnny?
Yeah. So I did a little thinking on this one, Glenn. Thank you for the question. To me, I think a number 1 is Anderson. 2 is Soriano. My 3s are combination of Detmer, Silseth, Kochanowicz so far. I like what I'm seeing. I'd even, could see him moving up at some point. Sandoval's one of those guys. Canning to me is a 4 or a 5. And then a 5+ would be somebody like Rosenberg, Daniel, Jose Suarez, the guys that you need to come up and eat some innings because somebody's hurt. But to answer Glenn's question, I don't think the Angels have any 1s or 2s. I don't think Tyler Anderson is not another team's number 1. And that's okay. He's pitched like a 1 earlier this season, and we talk about 1s a lot. Like, is this guy a 1 or a 2? But I think we conflate the idea of a 1 with an ace. And I think they're very different things. The 1 is the best guy on your team. An ace is the best guy on pretty much any team, whether he's on your team or somebody else. And no one's reached that level of ace yet. In fact, I would argue that an ace is a perennial Cy Young contender. Like this year, Mike, aces around the league: Tariq Skubal, Chris Sale, surprisingly having a resurgence with the Braves, Corbin Burns, obviously, Zach Wheeler, who, again, we always talk about it. Angels should have got that offseason, but then the sign ran down. Those are aces to me. Jared Weaver was an ace for years. You knew that when you handed him the ball, he was going at least 7 innings. He was keeping you in the game and might even take you into the 9th where you bring in your closer or whatnot. But they always give you a chance to win the game. Yeah. And to be honest, Tyler Anderson was doing that, but we all knew that there was going to be some underlying metrics that eventually caught up with him. I think that we're seeing that right now. But again, I don't think Anderson is an ace of this team, and I don't think he's a number one on other teams as well. Those names I listed for Cy Young guys, those are aces, and I would love to see the Angels guys turn somebody into an ace in the next couple of years. I think that would be really awesome to see.
I wonder if Clausen has that potential, right? I mean, everybody's going to say probably Caden Dana. Obviously, that's preliminary because we haven't seen him pitch in the majors for too long. But Clausen with his stuff might potentially be somebody that could really fool a lot of batters, especially with that fastball. I think Altaguiri, who's pitching today, I think he could potentially be a number 2, number 3, based upon projections, right? Obviously, we haven't seen him yet, but I think that Clausen and Dana have that potential. And I think you're right. We often will want to look for an ace, but what the Angels need to start with is who's going to lead this rotation? Who's going to stop the losing streak, right? And Reed Detmers was that at the beginning of the year, wasn't he? He was that guy, and then suddenly wasn't that guy. And now we're looking for somebody to really help lead this rotation and potentially grow into that ace-like pitcher.
Hey, Sydney Scott had a fun question for us. She said, feel free to ignore this, but I'm just curious, with all the time and effort you guys put into the podcast, it's amazing, and I love it. Thank you, Sydney. How much of your brain real estate is owned by the Angels and baseball in general? How do you have time to think about anything else? What do you say, Mike?
Well, my regular job in the real world takes up a lot of time and a lot of thought. And so what I love about Locked On Angels is that it has nothing to do with what I do in real life. Yeah. And so it's a nice reprieve, honestly, even when the Angels were struggling. I'll be honest, the first couple of years, especially the losing streak year, that was really hard to jump on because we were fresh to this. And I'm not obviously a huge fan, but what I found myself doing this year is, John, your no expectations line that you gave at like the end of last year and I adopted has been such a reprieve and salve for my soul, because I knew going in that we're not going to be competitive. And if we were going to be competitive, it would barely be 500. So that's helped me with my perspective. Still get frustrated, still get upset, but it's tempered my, oh man, I'm exhausted by this team. It's tempered my, oh man, it's taking up a lot of thought, all of those things. And so I actually really enjoy being on the show with you, obviously with the everydayers, because it is a nice break from real life and real bills and real stuff, right?
Right. And I'm fortunate at this point in my career where Locked On Angels is one part of the many things I get to do that add up to like, hey, I'm making it. This is what I enjoy. This is what I do. And so for me to do this show is not a burden. It's fun, and it gives me a chance to be on social media and make short videos and do our breaking news stuff. And so, as I lean more into the baseball world where I'm doing sports writing and all of those things, it's just a really exciting time in my life where, Locked On Angels wasn't always what it's been for us now, like especially when we first came on, and there's been a lot of growth. I mean, we've added almost 8,000 subscribers since we took over, and it's been really awesome. And you guys have been a huge part of that. So thank you for making this one of the best parts of my career that I've had up until this point in my life. And so, yeah, it's just been really great to let this be one piece of the puzzle for all the things that I enjoy doing for work, to be honest with you. And a lot of times this does not feel like work. It does take up a lot of my brain space, but I'm not mad about that. It's fun.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB. Our friend Sully's going to make you laugh, make you cry, and then give you all the information you need to be a smarter baseball fan. He's got all of baseball covered, and his podcast is available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And he's a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.
Hey, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show, get in the comments section so that we can interact with you there. Mike, what do we have on deck for Monday's show?
We're going to recap the weekend series against the Mariners, but specifically, we're going to talk about Altaguiri's start, and we're going to talk about Caden Dana's start. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how they do. Even if it's not great, I'm looking forward to seeing what we can learn, where they need to develop. We got some good conversations coming on Monday on Locked On Angels.
Yeah, we'll break down their starts for you. More than just a recap. We'll get into the way they pitched and all that stuff. So until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
All right, friends, have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday.
Wait.
The Mariners.
I was waiting.
They lost their 10-game lead.